Smoke, two things that don't go together: drinking and driving. We got guys ruining their lives every day. We got Jordan Addison with a DUI, 3 deaths in Maryland, Georgia football players and staffers with a staggering 24 driving offenses since they had a death last year. Smoke, what are your thoughts on some of these?
Well, the craziest thing is Jordan's teammate was one of those guys in the car, right, with other one of his 2 teammates and his best friends. We know right now, all they have to do is go straight to Uber and just call Uber to get home. There's no reason for anybody to get in the car after having one drink at all, Carl. And these guys are ruining their lives, but more or less they're ruining other people's lives because they're on the road as well with other people. I was on the road at 314 when that accident happened in Maryland. I was right down the street of my sister's house in Bowie for the 4th of July weekend.
The big thing that I'm going to say, Smoke, just call an Uber. Just call an Uber. Welcome to Unfiltered. I'm your host, Carl Reed.
And I'm Smoke Dixon.
Guys, it's time to get unfiltered. Smoke, tell them why they should tune in to us today.
They need to stay tuned to hear 2 football guys unpack the unfiltered truth about what's going on in today's college football ecosystem from the lenses of 2 former coaches, 2 former players, and your resident GM, me, Smoke Dixon. See, Reed, let's get unfiltered.
In today's show, we have Texas General Manager Brandon Harris joining us, one of the best young evaluators in the country. Is Quinn Ewers QB1 for the 2025 draft? Kalen DeBoer and Courtney Morgan at Alabama are still recruiting at a Nick Saban type level. Quick reminder, lock in with us on the 24/7 Sports YouTube channel to watch Unfiltered every Wednesday and Friday to find out what's going on in college football. Now, Smoke, I want to introduce our guest right here, and I want to give him the proper accolades because this guy is special. He is a former state championship winning quarterback from the state of Louisiana at Parkway High School in New Orleans. Went on the road and won all of those playoff games. He committed to playing football at LSU. Finished his career as last year he played at North Carolina, started off as an assistant running back coach and offensive analyst at Texas, but he followed that up with going into the director of recruiting role, and now he is the GM. I think he might be the youngest GM in the country, but we're going to have to fact check that. Let's get unfiltered with our guest today, Brandon Harris. My man, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Appreciate you having me on the show. Smoke, thank you for having me on the show. I'm looking forward to it.
Hey, B, listen to this. You started off on the field coaching. What made you pivot from going on the field and coaching to being off the field in the recruiting department and eventually going into the general manager role you hold today?
Man, I believe it was a vision, right? When I first got into this deal, I was with the running backs, right? And you've already kind of went through that. And I knew I wasn't coaching a room, especially here in Texas, right? And we had Stan Drayton, who was unbelievable, great teacher. And I was just like, okay, how can I find my niche? You know, and in doing that, I thought, okay, well, if I'm not going to coach the room, I better get acclimated to recruiting, right? So my job was to, try to connect with different players. And then during that time, we were able to sign some incredible players. And then, Coach Sark took over this job in 2021. And I was fortunate for him to be able to keep me. And our director of recruiting at the time, Brian Carrington, who did a great job during his time here at Texas, left. And Coach Sark moved me into the spot. And since then, the rest has kind of been history.
B, being one of those GMs, old guy, man, I'm 43, but I understand the pressures of finishing in a top 5 class. Right now, Texas is on the outside looking in terms of being on that top 5 class. What are you doing to take those steps to make sure that Texas does finish in the top 5?
Yeah, so for us, and I mean, no insults when I say this. I mean, obviously a big fan of 247 Sports, On3, Rivals, and all of those different platforms. But, we believe in our process, which we believe in evaluating our own players and doing the things that we do. And we don't get caught up with outside rankings and what, other, affiliate ranking websites may think of, how we recruit. We evaluate the right players. And when we evaluate the right players, we try to go out and assign them. And, luckily these last 3 years, now going into year 4, we've been pretty fortunate in doing so.
Now, Brandon, you and I talk a lot, especially leading up to signing day and both of those periods. When you're going after elite talent in this day and age, how is NIL affecting it as you get closer to signing day? And does NIL make it that much difficult to close out on your classes?
Yeah, for us, and I think Coach has been on record saying this, Coach Sark, we always want kids to sign up to come to the University of Texas for all the right reasons, right? I mean, you talk about a top 10 program, top 5 program, I might add. You talk about a top 5 student education as it relates to public schools. We want to sign the right kids that want to be here for all of the right reasons, how they're going to develop on and off the field. And then, hey, at the end of the day, NIL has now become part of that conversation. And our goal always is just to educate people on NIL and talk about the different opportunities that are afforded to you when you have the opportunity to play at the University of Texas, which is a top 5 program in the country and probably the most recognizable logo. Well, not probably, I know the most recognizable logo in all of college sports. So when all those things align and you feel like this is where you want to be at, we always have said, NIL always makes sense. And we've been pretty fortunate to have a really, really good NIL system that we have here at Texas.
Now, B, when you're putting together your roster, we all understand there's key components of doing that. What are your 3 components of properly constructing your roster at Texas?
Yeah, for us, the number one thing is we got to evaluate the right talent. It starts there. I think we do a really, really good job in our evaluation process. Then next is you got to recruit. You got to have a right system in place to recruit the best players. And then after that, you got to develop those guys. If you can do those 3, in my opinion, components really, really well, you're fortunate, like we were this past April for the draft, to have 11 players drafted. So I think if you continue to have that system in place, the sky's the limit for your program.
Now, you were a former quarterback yourself, and you played it at a very high level. From the GM perspective, give us a quick eval on your current quarterback, Quinn Ewers.
Oh, man, you won't probably find a bigger fan than me on Quinn. Quinn's elite in every sense of the word. Quinn's probably one of the most gifted, passers, quarterbacks I've ever been around, and he's so chill, right? The moment's never too big for him. It's a reason why, our successes continue to go up since he's been here and he's taken over as our quarterback. And obviously he's going into year 3 as a starting quarterback, with all of the recognition that he rightfully so deserves. My goal is always to try to be one of the parts of putting, the best talent that we can around him. And I think the sky's the limit. But in terms of the talent, you won't find a better talented quarterback. And, I think he's poised to have an awesome season here in year 3 in our program.
Now, Brandon, you touched on evaluating recruiting. There's 3 types of GMs, in my opinion. You got your recruiter, you got your evaluator, and then you got your unicorn, the one that does all 2 of those, plus sign the deal. Which one of those guys are you?
I think, man, I'm a unicorn. I think I'm a jack of all trades. I feel like in this role, you kind of have to be that. Coach Sark has this saying around here, the more you can do. It's not about having the biggest staff, having the most people, all of those things. It's just about the more you can do. You'll never find me complaining just because I'm grateful for the opportunity. And I feel like the more you complain about what you don't have, the quicker you're going to be out the door. Take advantage of what you have and make the most of your opportunities. So I feel like I'm a unicorn. I'm just got to adapt. Coach said this, he says it to us all the time. You either adapt or you die. And I'm not looking forward to dying no time soon. So keep making the most of my opportunities.
Well, B, we're going to lighten up a little bit. We're going to get into our true and false segment, where true or false, and add a little comment after it after each question. So I'm going to start it off and give you the first one. Quarterbacks are the most important initial commitment in a recruiting class.
I think that's 100% true. I think that quarterback is always that sounding board for the entire class and how that class will look. And obviously, it is the most popular position in all of sports. So when you get the right guy and he's different, you tend to be able to recruit a little bit easier.
B, true or false, Texas will finish in the top 5 in the 2025 recruiting rankings.
True. I think we set up, we've always done a good job of finishing really, really well. And ultimately, the season has a lot to do with that. But I think we're poised to have a really good season. If we do that, it'll take care of the rest.
B, last one for you. Winning the recruiting signing class in the summertime is way too overblown.
100% true. I think it goes back to that last comment that I just made. Obviously you'd like momentum and, obviously we'll have a ton of momentum leading into our season. But what I will always say is the season takes season has a lot to do with how you finish in recruiting. If you go out and you play really, really well and you're developing players and players are having an opportunity to play at the next level, I think it takes care of recruiting. And fortunately for us, I think, again, we're going to have a really, really good season. And that's going to, propel us into having another good signing day class that'll, lead us into the future.
Brandon, at the end of every segment or interview that we have, we like to do something called Shine a Light. Are there any guys in the profession, in the recruiting department, general manager role, or coaching that maybe everybody in the country doesn't know about? Is there a guy, too, that you'd like to let us know we should have our eye on this guy because he's next?
I'll say guy and girl, and women, rather. One thing I want to do is just shine a light on the staff that I have the fortune of working with every single day. Obviously, I want to highlight our director of player personnel, John Michael Jones, who does a great job for us, kind of running our evaluation process. Jimmy Youngblood, who's come up in our system, went off to University of Houston. We brought him back. Jackson Gleason, who was a person that came up in our system that we had promoted to a full-time role. Then on the recruiting side, Taylor Searles, who's done a great job for us. I worked directly with the last couple of years. Who's our director of recruiting, Kendall Perry, who we hired from FAMU, who's come over here and done a great job. And then we have Jordan Mitchell, who was a person who came up in our system, who we promoted to a full-time role. It's everybody, man. We're very, very fortunate at Texas. When Sark came here with a vision, I think he hired an incredible staff. And we say around here all the time, when it comes to recruiting, it's all hands on deck. So, again, we've been real fortunate to have really good people. And outside of that, just people that I'm sure you already know, two of my close friends in this profession, James Blanchard at Texas Tech, and then obviously Courtney Morgan, who's one of my guys too. Seeing with the success that they've had and how much they continue to help evolve this thing it's been pretty cool. And I'm pretty fortunate to have those two guys that I can call at any time and just pitch different ideas or ask for advice.
B, man, listen. It's been a pleasure having you on the show today. You dropped some knowledge, you dropped some jewels. University of Texas is in the mix. I think didn't Coach Saban Smoke pick them as a SEC championship game?
No doubt.
For sure. I know the expectations are high, but you're doing a great job, man. And thanks for coming on our show today.
Man, I really appreciate you guys having me on. And look, when I retire too, I'm gonna come up there and I'll coach the offensive line and run the wing tee with you.
Well, listen, I'm 43, so everybody on social media knows when I turn 50, whatever I'm doing, I'm stopping it and I'm going back to coach high school football and I'm gonna run the wing tee. You're more than welcome to come with me.
Appreciate y'all having me on. Yes, sir.
Hey, listen, Smoke. Some great things at Texas. I hear you. Don't laugh at the wing tee. Don't you dare make that face on this television show today. Great things from Brandon at University of Texas so far.
Everything was going right until you touched on that daggone wing tee, man. But listen, a few things I got away from that interview will be, he understands what his coach wants. He understands what the university needs. And he knows the direction that they're going into. And when you have all those lined up, resources, coach, and people that have passion around the university, they got a real good chance to win. I see why Coach Saban is picking them to play in the SEC championship.
Well, Smoke, we've asked over and over again on our show, is Texas ready for the SEC? The real question, is the SEC ready for Texas?
Call me and Smoke Dixon, I'm spitting facts. Now let's hit some heated topics, just in time for group chat.
Smoke, you know what time it is. It's time to let the country know what we've been talking about and arguing about in our group chat throughout the week. And the first topic we're going to get into is Quinn Ewers college football's #1 quarterback in the 2025 draft? Smoke.
Talk to me.
I'm asking you, do you think he's #1?
I wouldn't say he's #1 right now, because one of the hardest things to do is put in order right now and say he's one, this guy's two, but he's in the conversation of being a top 5 pick. And here goes a couple of reasons why, Carl. When you look at him in his ability to win and lead, elite ability, you've seen him come in last year, run that team, take over that team, and you see that team going ahead and just getting behind him and following behind him and just going with what he's doing well. He's doing a bang-up job of playing winning football, setting the tone for that team, and having the right direction, and those guys are coming with him.
I think he's definitely going to be one of the three guys. I mean, it's a three-man race for who's going to be the number one quarterback in the draft. When you look at his decision-making and the process that he goes through in running his offense, what are you thinking about that?
Well, the first thing I do, Carl, whenever we talk about decision-making and turnover is I go straight to the turnover tape. He only had 6 interceptions. Like, out of all those 6 interceptions, I really can look at 2 and say it's really bad. Like this one, he hung the ball up too late. Safety came out in the middle of the field, picked that off. That's just him just driving the ball. This one is a green zone throw where he does not see that linebacker coming across the middle. Linebacker made an outstanding play. I don't really put that on him. This one, bad, because he went ahead and stared that down, threw it in a triple coverage. So right now we have one bad throw that he shouldn't have made. The other ones, bad. The next one in the red zone, he gets hit, ball gets tipped up in the air, interception. You live with some of those at that point. Right? The next one, he comes back, he makes a back shoulder throw in the red zone trying to make a play. When you are a talented quarterback, the number one thing that you have to do is you have to give your talented receivers an opportunity to make plays. And you can't play scared. You can make cautionary throws, but understand those throws sometimes going to be an inch away from being intercepted, but also an inch away from making a great play. So you got to live with the good and the bad. But his decision-making, outstanding with me, and I don't have a problem with him. He understands we over me, and the football is the most important commodity in this building, and he does a pretty good job of taking care of it. 6 interceptions, I'm living with that, and I'm okay. And those interceptions did not come in critical moments in terms of the third quarter or fourth quarter or overtime. All those interceptions were second quarter, first quarter, 2 in the red zone. With 2 of those interceptions, I'm okay, and I'll live with those.
When you break down his physical traits, how do you compare him with everybody else?
He's right up there. He doesn't have elite arm strength, but he has good arm strength. The ability to fit the ball into any window, make the 1, 2, or 3 throws, and drop it over the top. So when you look at it, the notable quarterbacks that are coming up in this draft, he stacks right up there with him. You have Carson Beck, Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward down there at Miami. Their percentages are all in the 66 to 70 category. All of those guys aren't making bad decisions in terms of interception. The lowest one on there is Carson Beck, talking about 281 yards per game. So out of that, you're going to have the same conversation that we had last year with the quarterback conversation. Which one of these guys do you want? And at the end of the day, it's going to be predicated on how well they play going into the season. That's going to be the deciding factor of which one's going to be the first one to be chest bumping and giving a high five to Roger Goodell.
Smoke, let's go on to topic number 2 in the group chat. Topic number 2, how Alabama continues to recruit top prospects during the Nick Saban era, the post-Saban era. How are Kalen, DeBoer, and Courtney Morgan able to continue to recruit at this level, Smoke?
Well, Coach, I'm going to give you a formula that's real simple. Resources, people, passion equals success and winning. They have resources at Alabama. They got the right coach and the right general manager, and they have passionate people behind it. A lot of those people did not leave the building in Alabama, so you know what they're doing. They want to always finish in that number 1 recruiting class, and they're doing that. They got that pipeline from Cali coming in. You see all those recruits. They following Courtney. Courtney got that tapped in. He was on our show, and he said, what? I'm doing a good job of hiring people within the region. I want the best one out of North Carolina in terms of guys that can recruit. Georgia, Louisiana, Texas. I just want to insulate myself with guys that understand the recruiting field and the recruiting grounds in the SEC and in the South. And then you structure their personnel department. He's done a good job of keeping everyone there in the boat. The DPP's there. Director of recruiting is there. Director of strategy is there. Ashley Kimmel is still there. They're doing a good job of just keeping it the same, but adding new pressure, new flair, a new zest, new spirit, new life in that building. And that's how they finished number 1. And they kept 2 of their best recruiters, Robert Gillespie and my man, Freddie Roach.
For sure.
Now, Coach, you were a high school coach. What did you say to players to improve their rankings as they went through?
Well, Smoke, at first, when they would come into my office and talk rankings, I would always try to tell them that it wasn't that serious and it's not that important. But this is really important to these guys. And I can tell even from coaching high school and now working in my role at 24/7, the number 1 question you get asked is, how can I improve my ranking? What a lot of guys have to understand, Smoke, is that your offers come before your ranking. You have to first really commit yourself to developing good habits as a football player. You need to become the best football player you can be. And that's going to start to get you recruited by the premier schools based on size, based on length, and based off what you put on tape and your character components. And when you start doing that and getting the offers coming in, that's when people start to rank you and put those stars next to your name. A lot of guys think, well, if you give me a star, that's going to make Kalen DeBoer and Courtney Morgan recruit me. And Smoke, you know that it doesn't work like that. Production comes first, you get your offers first, and then you get your rankings. Not the other way around, Smoke.
Well said.
What does Bama need? They've been dominating recruiting so far. What do they need to do to finish strong? What needs do they have?
Well, the summer's getting cold for a lot of people that won't commit to Bama. We
Cold
understand
summer.
that. Cold summer. But they got to finish it off and make that fall season warm and that winter even warmer. And that means closing out on some of these guys. They got to make sure that they finish up and get one of their top recruits in the area at Parker High School that might be decommitting from the other school that he's at. So you have to win at home, go flip somebody from one of those schools to solidify yourself as the #1 class. Then you have to have success. You can't talk about signing if you're not winning games during the season. Win games, finish, flip, retain. Make sure that transfer portal doesn't look bad, because if guys start jumping out of the boat, you're not going to have a lot of people coming in. And at the end of the day, the only 3 letters that's in the dictionary, RTR. We understand what that means.
Now, I should throw a flag on you for throwing that roll tide roll in there before we get into this segment. But, Smoke, this is our flag on the play segment where we talk about things that don't sit right with us.
Man, see, Regent, I left my flag at home.
Who you throwing a flag on today, bro?
I left my flag at home. But I'm going to throw it on everybody that thought that Kalen DeBoer and Courtney Morgan was not going to keep this tide rolling with this #1 recruiting class. Shame on y'all for thinking that Bama was going to roll. They have resources, they have the right people, and they have passion, and they're right in the same area, and they got that pipeline coming out of Cali. Good luck for everybody else. The tide just keep on rolling. Who you throwing the flag on, C. Reed?
I'm throwing my flag on all the college football players that are doing and pro players that are drinking and driving. We have too many resources right now for you to do this. Every college football player, I don't know if it comes from the athletic department, I don't know if it comes from the collective, they should have an Uber app on their phone. And the use of the Uber app should be, if I've had too much to drink, I should take an Uber. There's no need for me to get behind the wheel. If you've ever experienced seeing a death from drunk driving or seeing somebody that is paralyzed for life in a wheelchair due to a drunk driving incident, you should be smarter than that. Everybody thinks that it's not going to be me. Everybody thinks that I'm not going to be the guy. But you're talking about fining guys, you're talking about whatever kind of punishment. Life is a very serious thing. If you are drinking, you have no business getting behind the wheel of an automobile. Hit the Uber app. Everybody has plenty of money. Players are getting paid now. And this is one of the things that they should have in place for everybody in the athletic department. Get an Uber. Do not drink and drive. That's my flag on the play today. Be safe out there on the road, Smoke.
Well said, man. I'm with that.
Guys, watch our show every Wednesday and Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on the 24/7 Sports YouTube channel. You have just been unfiltered.
Filter him, Carl.